Close your eyes for a little while and imagine a place where the first light has not yet reached the earth. The stars still rest above a wide river, and the water moves so gently that it hardly seems to move at all. The air is cool for now. It carries the faint smell of damp soil from the riverbank and the quiet scent of reeds growing along the edge of the water. Somewhere in the darkness, a night bird calls only once before becoming silent again. The villages are still asleep. Mud brick homes stand close together, their flat roofs holding the coolness gathered through the night. Small clay jars wait beside doorways. Woven baskets lean against rough walls. A few goats shift softly in their pens. Their gentle movements make little more than a rustle against dry straw. Soon the morning will begin. Not suddenly, but little by little. One family wakes before another. Someone stretches after sleeping on a simple reed mat. Sandals scrape quietly across a smooth stone floor. A mother places fresh fuel into a clay oven. A child rubs sleepy eyes before stepping outside to fetch water. The village slowly breathes awake. Far away beyond these homes, another person has already risen. He is neither a great ruler nor a famous soldier. Songs will never be written about him. His name may disappear from memory before the season has changed. Yet his work matters greatly to those who depend upon order. He is a tax scribe. Today, like many days before it, he will count livestock. It sounds like a simple task. A few animals. Some careful writing. Then home before sunset. But the work fills nearly every hour of the day. It asks for patience more than strength. It asks for careful eyes. It asks for calm breathing beneath the growing heat of the Egyptian sun. And if you had lived in this ancient world, there is every chance that one quiet morning would have found you walking beside him. The eastern horizon slowly changes from black to deep blue. Then pale gray. Then soft gold. The Nile begins to shine. Its quiet surface catches the first light while fishermen untie their small boats. Wooden oars slide gently into the water. Nets lie folded beside baskets woven from reeds. Nobody speaks very loudly. Voices remain soft, as though the river itself prefers peaceful mornings. You begin walking along a dusty road. The dust is still cool beneath your sandals. Palm trees stand in uneven rows, their leaves moving only slightly in the morning breeze. Beyond them stretch fields that owe their life to the yearly flooding of the Nile. Barley grows in neat patches. Wheat bends gently in the early light. Farmers are already awake. One man adjusts a wooden yoke across the shoulders of two oxen. Another carries a hoe worn smooth from years of use. Someone else scatters grain for chickens that gather around his feet. Nobody rushes. The day is long. There is time enough for work. The tax scribe carries almost nothing that seems valuable. A wooden writing palette. A small roll of papyrus. Reed pens. Small cakes of black and red ink. A water jar hanging from a shoulder strap. His clothing is simple linen, light enough for the coming heat. His sandals are sturdy. He has walked these roads many times before. He knows nearly every village between the river and the desert edge. He remembers families not because they are famous but because he has counted their sheep year after year. He remembers which farmer always smiles first. Which old woman offers cool water without being asked. Which children hide behind walls before slowly gathering enough courage to watch him work. As the sun rises higher, the village becomes fully alive. Smoke rises from ovens. Fresh bread begins baking. The warm smell drifts through narrow streets. Someone grinds grain between heavy stones. The steady scraping sound joins the soft rhythm of daily life. Goats begin calling to one another. Donkeys wait patiently beneath small bundles of firewood. Dogs stretch lazily before lying down again in patches of shade. Nothing feels hurried. Everything follows the slow rhythm learned over countless generations. The tax collector reaches the center of the village. He is greeted politely. People know why he has come. No one seems surprised. The counting happens every season. Every family expects it. The village headman steps forward first. He bows his head slightly. Words are exchanged quietly. There is no argument today. Only routine. Only careful work waiting to begin. The animals must be gathered. That alone takes time. Goats wander wherever they please. Sheep prefer staying together but never quite where someone wants them. Calves hide behind older cattle. Donkeys decide that standing perfectly still is better than walking forward. Children help chase them gently toward an open space near the fields. Dust rises into the growing sunlight. The air begins warming. The scribe waits patiently. There is no reason to hurry. His work depends upon accuracy. The first goats arrive. Some are young. Some are old. Some carry long curved horns. Others have only short ones. Each animal represents wealth. Food. Milk. Future children. Trading value. Every single one matters. The counting begins. 1, 2, 3, 4. Each number is spoken softly. The scribe makes careful marks upon the papyrus. His reed pen moves with practiced confidence. Years of writing have made every motion smooth. He hardly needs to think about the shape of each sign anymore. His hand remembers. Meanwhile the goats continue shifting. One tries to wander away. A young boy quietly guides it back. Another goat lowers its head to nibble dry grass. The animals have no understanding of taxes. They know only sunlight, food, water, rest. The counting pauses. Not because of mistakes. Because another group of animals has not yet arrived. There is always waiting. Waiting is part of nearly every occupation in the ancient world. Waiting for bread to bake. Waiting for floods. Waiting for harvest. Waiting for the hottest hours to pass. The tax scribe has learned patience better than most. He drinks from his water jar. The cool water is pleasant now, though it will become warm before noon. Nearby, an elderly woman removes fresh loaves from her oven. The smell spreads through the open air. Warm grain. Light smoke. A faint sweetness from crushed dates baking inside one loaf prepared for her grandchildren. She smiles toward the workers. Soon bread is offered. Not as payment. Simply as kindness. The scribe accepts a small piece. He thanks her quietly. The bread is warm against his fingers. Simple food. Yet deeply satisfying after the morning walk. A breeze arrives from the river. For a few moments the air feels wonderfully cool. Palm leaves whisper overhead. A white bird glides across the bright sky before disappearing toward distant marshes. Life continues around the counting. Women carry jars balanced gracefully upon their heads. Potters shape wet clay beside spinning wheels turned slowly by hand. A fisherman returns earlier than expected with several shining fish lying inside a woven basket. Children laugh only briefly before being reminded not to disturb the workers. The laughter fades into quieter voices. Now come the sheep. They move together in thick groups. Their wool carries dust gathered from dry paths. Some stop to scratch against wooden fence posts. Others follow one another almost without thinking. Again the counting begins. Slowly. Patiently. One after another. Nothing dramatic happens. No great event interrupts the morning. And somehow that is exactly how life usually unfolds. History often remembers victories, coronations, monuments, battles. Yet most mornings across ancient Egypt looked much more like this. People counted, measured, ground grain, mended baskets, carried water, fed animals, swept floors, lived ordinary lives beneath extraordinary skies. The sun climbs higher. Shadows become shorter. Heat settles across the fields. Workers wrap light cloth around their heads. The brightness reflecting from pale earth becomes almost blinding. Still the counting continues. One family owns only 4 goats. Another owns 23. One elderly farmer has 2 oxen that have worked beside him for nearly 10 years. Their slow eyes seem almost thoughtful. The scribe examines them carefully before making another neat record. Every mark on papyrus represents responsibility. Taxes help fill granaries. Support temple workers. Provide supplies for officials. Maintain boats. Repair canals. The system is imperfect. People sometimes worry. Sometimes complain quietly after the officials have left. Yet they understand its place within the great rhythm of the kingdom. Without records, confusion grows. Without counting, disputes become common. Writing brings order. The ancient world depends upon memory written down before memories disappear. The tax scribe knows this well. His handwriting may outlive him. Long after his footsteps fade from these dusty roads, another reader might unroll the same papyrus and see neat columns of careful signs. Perhaps no one will remember the man, but they will trust his numbers. By late morning the cattle arrive. They are slower than sheep, larger, heavier. Their hooves leave deep prints in the dry ground. Flies gather around them despite constant flicking tails. The smell changes now. Warm hide, dry earth, fresh straw, animal breath. It is not unpleasant. Simply familiar. The cattle stand surprisingly still. A farmer gently pats the neck of his oldest ox. The animal has helped plow fields through many flood seasons. Its broad shoulders tell stories of years spent pulling wooden plows through rich black soil left behind by the Nile. The scribe pauses before writing. Not because he has forgotten his work. Because he quietly admires the animal. Strong. Patient. Reliable. Much like the people who care for it. Nearby, 2 brothers repair a broken wooden fence. Their conversation remains soft. They speak of next season's planting. Of whether the flood will be generous. Of an elderly neighbor whose knees ache whenever cooler winds arrive. Nothing important enough for history books. Everything important enough for daily life. The breeze fades. The heat settles fully over the village. Air begins shimmering above the fields. Even birds become quieter. People naturally slow their movements. Nobody wastes energy beneath the midday sun. The counting also slows. Not from laziness. Simply because every motion asks more from the body. Sweat gathers beneath linen clothing. Dust clings gently to damp skin. Water jars become lighter. Shade grows more precious. A large sycamore tree offers relief. Its broad branches shelter workers for a short rest. The scribe sits carefully upon a low stone. He checks every line already written. Numbers are read again. Marks inspected. Nothing appears incorrect. Accuracy brings quiet satisfaction. He closes his eyes for only a moment. Not to sleep. Only to enjoy the cool shade and the sound of distant water moving through an irrigation canal. The sound is steady. Gentle. Almost musical. Children sit nearby sharing pieces of bread dipped into crushed beans. One little girl offers a crumb to a patient goat standing beside her. The goat accepts happily. She smiles. Her father smiles too. Simple moments pass unnoticed by most people. Yet they quietly fill an ordinary life with warmth. Soon work begins again. There are still donkeys to count. A few pigs kept near marshy ground. Several geese belonging to one prosperous household. Every animal has its place. Every owner waits while careful records continue growing line by line. Time moves slowly beneath the Egyptian sun. No clock measures these hours. People judge the passing day by shadows. By hunger. By changing light. By habit learned through years of work. The scribe barely notices how many hours have already passed. His world has narrowed pleasantly to animals, ink, papyrus, voices, dust, and sunlight. It is quiet work. Thoughtful work. A kind of slow conversation between people, numbers, and memory. And as the afternoon stretches gently onward, the dusty road beyond the village waits in peaceful silence for the next careful walk, the next family, and the next patient counting beneath the warm skies of ancient Egypt. The afternoon settles over the village with the quiet confidence of something that has happened countless times before. The sun now stands high enough that almost every shadow has gathered close to the feet of people, trees, and walls. The light is bright but softened by a faint veil of dust hanging gently in the warm air. It drifts so slowly that it is almost impossible to notice unless you stand still for a long while. The tax scribe stands once more, stretching his shoulders without haste. His legs feel the miles already walked since dawn, though there are still many more to come before the day is finished. He brushes a little dust from his linen robe and carefully rolls the papyrus before placing it safely inside a leather wrapping. The ink must remain dry. The writing must remain clear. A season from now, these records may still be needed. Around him, the villagers return to their own work. The counting has not stopped their lives. Bread continues to bake inside rounded clay ovens. The smell drifts through the narrow lanes, warm and comforting. Fresh loaves cool upon woven trays while children wait patiently for permission to tear away the first soft pieces. One woman brushes flour from her hands before lifting another round of dough. Her movements are practiced, calm, and almost effortless after many years. Nearby, an old potter shapes another water jar. His hands are coated with smooth river clay. They move with a gentle rhythm that seems almost as slow as the turning of the earth itself. The wheel spins beneath his fingers while the vessel gradually rises from the wet clay, becoming taller and stronger with every careful touch. No one speaks loudly. The afternoon itself seems to encourage quiet voices. Even the donkeys standing beneath woven shade coverings seem content simply to rest. Their ears twitch now and then at the buzzing of insects, but otherwise they remain perfectly still. The scribe walks toward another enclosure built from wooden posts and woven reeds. Inside waits a smaller collection of goats. These belong to two brothers whose family has lived beside the river for generations. Their father counted these same animals years ago. Their grandfather once brought goats to this very place before another scribe whose name has long since disappeared into the past. Only the work remains. The brothers greet the scribe with respectful smiles. One carries a small stool made from tamarisk wood. "You should sit while we gather them," he says softly. The scribe thanks him with a quiet nod. There is wisdom in accepting small kindnesses. Long roads become easier when people share simple comforts. He sits beneath the shade of a date palm while the brothers gently guide their goats into an open space. The animals know familiar voices. They move slowly, stopping now and then to nibble dry leaves or investigate a fallen branch before continuing. There is no need to shout. The goats understand the path well enough. A young boy watches carefully from nearby. He cannot be more than 8 years old. His eyes rarely leave the scribe's writing palette. The reed pen fascinates him. The careful lines appearing across the papyrus seem almost magical. He has seen writing before, of course, but only from a distance. Today he is close enough to watch every movement. Eventually he gathers enough courage to ask a question. "How do you remember every mark?" The scribe smiles. "My hand remembers what my mind once had to learn." The boy thinks about this answer for a long moment. His own hands already remember many things. How to braid rope. How to carry water without spilling too much. How to throw grain for chickens. How to climb the old sycamore tree beside his family's house. Perhaps one day they might also remember the shapes of written words. The thought quietly settles inside him. The goats gather together. The counting begins again. Each number is spoken gently. Each mark follows another with steady precision. The work feels almost peaceful. Like watching gentle waves reach the riverbank over and over again. No one rushes ahead. No one becomes impatient. The afternoon has taught everyone to move only as quickly as the heat allows. A warm breeze arrives from across the fields. It carries the smell of harvested barley mixed with sun-dried reeds. Far away someone beats grain with a wooden flail. The sound reaches the village as a slow, repeating rhythm. Tap. Pause. Tap. Pause. The pattern blends naturally with birdsong and distant animal calls. The scribe finishes another column of numbers. He studies the animals once more before placing a final mark beside their owner's name. Everything matches. Nothing has been overlooked. That quiet certainty brings a small feeling of satisfaction. No applause follows. No celebration. Only another careful page completed exactly as it should be. The day continues. Beyond the village, fields stretch toward the shining Nile. Farmers work among narrow irrigation channels dug by many hands over many years. Water moves quietly through them, finding every corner of the cultivated land before slowly returning to the earth. One elderly farmer pauses to straighten his back. Years of bending over crops have left his shoulders slightly rounded. He leans upon his wooden hoe and watches a pair of white birds searching for insects near the water. For a few moments, he does nothing at all. Rest itself is part of the day's work. Then, with another slow breath, he returns to the field. The scribe leaves the goat enclosure and follows a narrow path between low mud-brick walls. The walls hold traces of countless hands that shaped them from Nile mud mixed with straw. Under the afternoon sun they have dried into strong, sturdy homes that shelter families from heat, wind, and occasional rain. Many rooftops are flat. Some hold baskets drying in the sun. Others store bundles of reeds waiting for future repairs. Children climb narrow ladders to help their mothers spread grain where birds cannot easily reach it. The village feels lived in. Not perfect. Not grand. Simply comfortable in its own familiar way. As the scribe walks, people greet him. Some offer a nod. Some offer cool water. Others simply smile before returning to their own tasks. He knows many faces. Not because they are important officials. Because ordinary lives become familiar after enough seasons. He remembers a woman who once carried her first child while he counted her family's sheep. That child now walks beside her carrying a basket almost too large for his small arms. He remembers an old fisherman whose beard has become much whiter since the last visit. He remembers a young couple who built a new home after the Great Flood 3 years earlier. Time quietly leaves its marks on everyone. The scribe notices these changes almost as carefully as he notices numbers. Soon he reaches another family waiting beneath a woven shade shelter. This household owns only a few animals. 2 goats. 1 donkey. Several geese. Their wealth is modest. Yet their records matter just as much. The donkey stands patiently beside a wooden cart. Its coat is dusty from carrying jars of clay between the riverbank and the potter's workshops. Small scars along its back tell of years spent beneath heavy loads. Still, its eyes remain calm. The scribe gently examines the animal before recording it. Nearby, the family's grandmother shells beans into a shallow woven tray. The beans strike the basket with tiny clicking sounds. One after another. The rhythm is soothing. She hums a quiet tune that has no beginning anyone remembers. Perhaps her own grandmother once hummed the same melody while preparing supper many years before. Some songs survive because no one ever thinks to stop singing them. The afternoon slowly leans toward evening. The fierce heat begins to soften. The light changes almost without anyone noticing. Golden colors replace the sharp white brightness of midday. Palm trees cast longer shadows. Birds become more active again. Goats lift their heads from resting places. Even the breeze feels cooler now. The village seems to breathe more easily. The scribe drinks the last of his morning water. Fortunately, another family fills his jar from a large clay vessel kept in the shade. The water is wonderfully cool. The jar has rested all day where thick mud walls protected it from the sun. He drinks slowly. Each swallow washes away the dust gathered during many hours of walking and speaking. The family's youngest daughter watches with quiet curiosity. She asks whether he grows tired from counting. He smiles gently. Sometimes. Do you ever count wrong? The question hangs in the warm air. He considers it honestly. That is why I count slowly. She nods with the complete seriousness that only children sometimes possess. Slowly. The word seems important. Perhaps she will remember it. Not only for counting. For many other things in life as well. The scribe resumes his work. One sheep wanders away before its turn. Everyone waits. There is no frustration. The sheep is calmly guided back. Then the counting begins once more from the beginning. It is easier to repeat than to wonder later whether a mistake was made. Patience saves many problems. This lesson is learned again and again throughout the ancient world. The sun continues its gentle journey westward. Its light now shines across the Nile like polished copper. Fishing boats begin returning home. Their sails catch the evening breeze with quiet grace. Families waiting near the riverbank recognize familiar boats long before they reach shore. Children wave eagerly. Fathers smile. Nets filled with fish promise another simple meal shared beneath the stars. Smoke rises once again from cooking fires. The smell of onions, lentils, and fresh bread drifts across the village. Someone crushes herbs with a smooth stone. Someone stirs a clay pot over glowing coals. Someone slices dried dates into small pieces for the evening meal. The day's labor slowly gives way to the gentle routines of night. Still the scribe has one more household to visit before darkness. He follows a winding path toward fields near the edge of the cultivated land, where the green crops gradually surrender to pale desert sand. There, beneath the spreading branches of an old sycamore, waits a farmer with a quiet smile and a small herd of cattle already gathered together. The farmer has prepared everything before the scribe's arrival. There will be very little waiting. Only the slow counting. The familiar writing. The gentle scratching of reed against papyrus. The peaceful rhythm of another ordinary evening in ancient Egypt, where careful numbers, patient hands, and fading sunlight come together as naturally as the Nile flowing steadily toward the distant sea. The evening arrives so gently that it almost seems to drip down from the sky instead of moving across it. The light softens little by little. The bright white of the afternoon gives way to warm shades of gold, then amber, and finally a quiet bronze that settles across the fields. Every mud-brick wall seems to glow for a short while before the colors begin to fade into softer earth tones. The air changes as well. It is still warm, but no longer heavy. A breeze comes from the Nile carrying the cool scent of fresh water and green reeds. It slips between the date palms, brushes across the barley fields, and wanders into the village streets where children have begun to finish their games. The tax scribe reaches the last farm of the day. It rests slightly apart from the others, close enough to hear the distant river but far enough that the village sounds arrive only as a gentle murmur. Here the land feels quieter. There are fewer voices, fewer footsteps, and more room for the sounds of nature to fill the evening. A farmer waits beside a low stone wall. His linen clothing is faded from many seasons beneath the sun. His hands are rough with the familiar texture of soil, rope, and wooden tools. His face carries the calm expression of someone who has learned that nearly every day asks for steady work and quiet patience. He welcomes the scribe with a slight bow. "There is no hurry," the farmer says. "The cattle are already together." The scribe smiles. "There rarely is." Together they walk toward a wide enclosure built from wooden posts driven deep into the earth. Inside, several cattle stand peacefully chewing their evening feed. Their slow jaws move in an easy rhythm. Occasionally one flicks its tail to brush away a persistent fly. Nothing disturbs the calm. The farmer's oldest son opens the gate. The animals step into the open yard one by one. The counting begins again. 1. A pause. 2. Another careful mark upon the papyrus. 3. The soft scratching of the reed pen is almost the only sound. The farmer quietly watches. He has seen this work many times. He knows the rhythm. Sometimes he counts silently along with the scribe, not because he doubts the numbers, but because habit has taught him to notice every animal that depends upon his care. One cow limps ever so slightly. The farmer notices immediately. He gently places a hand upon her shoulder after she passes. "She stepped badly near the canal yesterday," he says almost to himself. "She will be better in a few days." The scribe nods without lifting his eyes from the page. Small injuries are part of farm life. Just as worn sandals slowly become thinner. Just as ropes eventually fray. Everything used each day carries the gentle marks of time. The last animal is counted. The ink dries quickly in the warm evening air. The scribe carefully examines the page once more. Every number rests exactly where it should. Every household visited today has been recorded. There is a quiet satisfaction in finishing careful work before darkness arrives. The farmer's wife appears carrying a small woven tray. Upon it rests fresh bread, a handful of olives, soft cheese made from goat's milk, and cool water stored inside a clay jar that has remained shaded all afternoon. "You have walked far today," she says. You should eat before the road. The scribe thanks her warmly. Hospitality asks for no ceremony here. Sharing food is simply part of living well together. He tears a small piece of bread. It is still slightly warm. The crust is firm, while the inside remains soft and fragrant. The simple meal tastes especially good after a long day beneath the sun. The cheese is fresh. The olives carry a gentle saltiness. The water is wonderfully cool. No feast could feel more comforting at this quiet hour. Nearby, the farmer's youngest daughter sits beside the enclosure. She carefully braids long strands of dried grass into a rope that will later help tie bundles of reeds. Her fingers move with surprising confidence. She has watched her mother do the same work for years. Now her own hands remember the pattern. Loop. Pull. Tighten. Again. 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 Much of life in ancient Egypt is learned this way. Not from written instruction. Not from long explanations. Simply by watching. Then trying. Then repeating. The evening breeze continues to move across the fields. The wheat sways together like gentle waves. Farther away, tall papyrus plants whisper softly along the river's edge. A flock of white birds rises suddenly into the air before settling again only a short distance away. The farmer watches them for a moment. They always know where the fish are. His voice carries no surprise. Only quiet observation earned through many years beside the Nile. The scribe finishes his meal and rinses his hands with a little water. He never uses more than necessary. Every jar has been filled by someone. Every drop has been carried across warm ground. Nothing is wasted without reason. The papyrus is rolled once more. The writing palette is wrapped carefully. The reed pens are cleaned. These small routines happen every evening. Each movement has become familiar through repetition. The body performs them almost without thought. As the sky deepens into richer shades of orange, the first shadows begin stretching across the fields. Workers slowly leave their tasks. Wooden hoes are carried home across tired shoulders. Fishing boats glide quietly toward the village landing. Their sails glow briefly in the evening light before becoming darker silhouettes against the western sky. The road home fills with gentle conversation. Two brothers discuss repairing an irrigation gate before the next watering. A mother reminds her children to gather dry sticks for tomorrow's cooking fire. An elderly man pauses often during his walk, not because he has forgotten where he is going, but because his knees appreciate slow steps more than hurried ones. No one seems eager. There is comfort in the day's ending. The tax scribe joins the road leading toward the river. His sandals lift small clouds of dust with every step. The dust settles almost immediately behind him, leaving the path looking much as it did before he arrived. Many travelers have walked here. Many more will follow. The road remembers everyone in exactly the same quiet way. Along one stretch of the path stands a large sycamore tree. Its branches spread wide enough to cast welcome shade even now. The scribe pauses beneath it for only a few moments. He listens. Somewhere nearby water trickles gently through a narrow irrigation channel. Crickets have begun their evening song. A donkey calls once from a distant yard. The sounds blend together naturally. Nothing competes for attention. Each sound simply finds its place within the larger silence. As he continues walking, he passes several boys driving a small herd of goats toward stone shelters for the night. The animals move more willingly now. They seem to understand the familiar path. Soon they will rest upon dry straw until morning. The boys carry slender staffs but rarely need to use them. Soft voices are enough. One goat stops to nibble a low bush. The youngest boy laughs quietly before guiding it onward. His laughter fades quickly into the peaceful evening. Beyond the fields, smoke rises from dozens of cooking fires. Thin gray lines drift upward into the calm sky. The smell reaches the road little by little. Baking bread. Roasted onions. Lentils simmering inside clay pots. Fresh fish cooking over glowing charcoal. Crushed garlic mixed with herbs. These familiar scents announce the arrival of supper long before anyone sits down to eat. Families gather together. Simple wooden bowls are placed upon woven mats. Bread is shared first. Then vegetables. Perhaps a little fish. Perhaps beans. Perhaps figs if the season has been generous. Conversation remains gentle. People speak of fields, neighbors, weather, and tomorrow's work. Children become quieter as their hunger disappears. Older family members eat slowly. No one rushes away. Darkness is approaching. There is nowhere else to be. The scribe reaches the river just as the sun touches the distant horizon. For a few quiet moments, the Nile reflects colors that seem almost impossible. Soft gold. Deep amber. Hints of rose. Then gradually the colors fade into cool blue. The water never stops moving. It carries reflections just as patiently as it carries boats, fish, and floating reeds. A small ferry waits at the bank. Its boatman recognizes the scribe immediately. "You have been counting again." "I have." "Was it a peaceful day?" The scribe smiles. "Very peaceful." The boatman nods. "That is good. Peaceful days are welcome days." They push away from the shore. The wooden boat glides smoothly across the gentle current. The oars dip into the water without splashing. Each stroke is slow and even. Neither man feels the need to fill the silence with many words. Sometimes quiet company is the finest company of all. The western sky slowly darkens. One bright star appears above the horizon. Then another. The evening breeze grows cooler. The warmth stored inside the earth begins to rise while the air above becomes pleasantly fresh. Across the river, lamps begin appearing inside homes. Small flames flicker behind open doorways. Their light dances softly against mud brick walls. Families prepare for another peaceful night. The scribe watches these lights while the ferry continues its slow crossing. Tomorrow many of these same homes will wake before sunrise. Bread will bake again. Fields will welcome farmers again. Boats will return to the river. Children will fetch water. Goats will wander. Sheep will graze. Somewhere another careful count will begin. Perhaps grain. Perhaps jars of oil. Perhaps livestock once more. Such work rarely changes. Season follows season. Flood follows flood. Life continues through countless ordinary days that, taken together, quietly build the history of an entire civilization. The ferry reaches the opposite bank. The boat gently touches the shore. The scribe steps onto the cool earth and begins the final walk toward the small town where he will spend the night. The stars continue multiplying above him, while behind him the Nile flows onward in peaceful silence, carrying with it the reflections of heaven and the quiet memories of another day spent counting the living wealth of ancient Egypt. The road beyond the river is quieter than the road that led into the village that morning. Most travelers have already reached their homes. The day's work is finished for nearly everyone who lives beside these fertile fields. The last light lingers low upon the western horizon, leaving a gentle glow that slowly fades behind distant palms. Above, the sky deepens into a rich blue where the first stars now shine with quiet confidence. The tax scribe walks without hurry. His feet know this road. He has traveled it many times through many seasons. Some years the fields beside him have been bright green after a generous flood. Other years they have carried the softer colors of dry earth, waiting patiently for the river to rise again. Every season leaves its own memory upon the land. The evening breeze cools the warmth that has rested inside the earth all day. It carries the faint scent of damp river banks mixed with fresh-cut reeds drying beside irrigation channels. Somewhere nearby, frogs begin calling from shallow pools left by the receding water. Their voices rise and fall together. Slow, steady, comforting. The sound has welcomed evenings along the Nile for countless generations. As darkness grows deeper, the scribe notices tiny lamps glowing ahead. They belong to a small resting place used by travelers moving between villages. It is not a grand building. Its walls are made of the same mud brick found throughout Egypt. A flat roof stretches above a shaded courtyard where visitors may rest, drink water, and spend the night before continuing their journeys. A single date palm stands beside the entrance. Its leaves rustle softly overhead. The keeper of the resting house looks up as the scribe approaches. He recognizes him immediately. "You have returned." "I have." "The road was kind." "It was." The keeper smiles. "A good road makes for quiet sleep." He takes the scribe's small water jar and fills it from a larger clay vessel resting deep in the shade. The water has remained cool throughout the day because the thick walls have protected it from the sun. The scribe drinks slowly. The first swallow washes away the dust gathered during many hours of walking. The second seems even cooler. Water always tastes sweetest after honest work. Inside the courtyard, several other travelers have already settled for the evening. One is a merchant carrying woven baskets filled with linen cloth. Another is a fisherman returning from a market farther south. A third appears to be a stonemason whose broad hands still carry pale traces of limestone dust beneath his fingernails. No one asks many questions. Long journeys often leave people content with quiet company. Each traveler seems grateful simply to rest. The merchant carefully folds a linen cloth beneath his head before sitting against the wall. The fisherman unties a small bundle containing bread, dried fish, and onions. The stonemason slowly removes his sandals and gently rubs his tired feet. Their movements are calm, unhurried. The kind of movements that come after a full day beneath the Egyptian sun. The keeper lights another small oil lamp. Its gentle flame pushes back the darkness only a little. It does not need to brighten the whole courtyard. Only enough for people to see one another's faces. The soft light dances across the mud brick walls. Shadows sway quietly as the flame moves with the evening breeze. The scribe unrolls his papyrus one final time before sleep. This is an evening habit he rarely forgets. He checks each column carefully. Not because he expects mistakes. Simply because careful work deserves one last careful look. His finger moves slowly down each line. The goats. The sheep. The cattle. The donkeys. The geese. Every number remains exactly where it belongs. The ink has dried perfectly. The papyrus can now be stored safely. He rolls it gently. Not too tightly. Not too loosely. Experience has taught him exactly how much pressure keeps the scroll smooth without damaging the fibers. Nearby, the merchant notices the writing. "You count livestock?" "I do." "For taxes?" "Yes." The merchant nods thoughtfully. "My brother counts grain." The scribe smiles. Then he also knows patience. The merchant laughs quietly. Perhaps too much patience. The small conversation fades naturally. Silence returns without feeling uncomfortable. No one feels the need to continue speaking. The night itself seems to invite listening rather than talking. From somewhere beyond the courtyard comes the slow creaking of a wooden water wheel. Oxen walk in steady circles, turning the wheel that lifts water into irrigation channels even after sunset. Step. Creak. Splash. Step. Creak. Splash. The rhythm repeats again and again. The workers guiding the animals move almost silently. They have performed this task so many evenings that every motion has become familiar. The sound blends gently with the chirping of insects. The scribe closes his eyes for a moment. The wheel has a peaceful rhythm. It reminds him that much of Egypt never truly stops working. Even while families prepare for sleep, someone still tends the canals. Someone watches the animals. Someone shapes clay before tomorrow's market. Someone keeps watch beside grain stores. Someone remains awake so that others may rest. He opens his eyes again. The stars have multiplied. The Milky Way stretches across the heavens like a pale ribbon scattered with countless points of light. Without the smoke and brightness of large cities, the night sky appears endless. Children raised beside the Nile learn these stars almost as well as they learn the bends of the river. Travelers use them. Boatmen trust them. Farmers greet them before dawn. The stars quietly watch every ordinary life unfolding below. The keeper begins preparing the evening meal. It is simple. A clay pot rests above glowing charcoal. Inside, lentils simmer slowly with onions and herbs. Another traveler slices fresh bread into thick pieces. Someone places a small bowl of olives nearby. The smell spreads gently through the courtyard. Warm. Earthy. Comforting. The scribe accepts a modest portion. No one eats quickly. The day's heat has faded. The air encourages slow conversation and unhurried meals. The fisherman speaks softly about the river. The water was calm today. It usually is this time of year. I saw two great herons standing among the reeds. They always return. The conversation pauses. Then begins again after several quiet moments. No one interrupts another. The words move at the same gentle pace as the evening itself. When the meal is finished, the bowls are rinsed with careful hands. Nothing is wasted. The remaining bread is wrapped in linen for tomorrow. The charcoal continues glowing softly long after the cooking has ended. Its warmth drifts upward into the cool night air. The scribe steps outside the courtyard for a short walk before resting. The path leading away from the resting house is almost silver beneath the moonlight. The moon has risen above the eastern horizon. Its pale light covers the fields with a gentle glow. The wheat seems almost to shimmer. Palm trees cast long, graceful shadows across the ground. Far away, the Nile reflects the moon like polished stone. The river appears calmer now than it did during daylight. Its surface hardly seems to move. Yet beneath that peaceful appearance, the current continues its endless journey toward the sea. The scribe stands quietly beside an irrigation canal. Tiny fish disturb the surface now and then. A frog slips into the water with barely a sound. The reeds sway gently. Nothing else moves. He thinks about the families he visited today. The elderly farmer with the faithful ox. The little girl braiding grass beside the cattle enclosure. The curious boy fascinated by the reed pen. The grandmother quietly shelling beans. Each household has its own rhythm. Its own worries. Its own hopes for the coming flood. Yet all are connected by the same river. The same fields. The same seasons. The same patient work that fills one day after another. Tomorrow those families will rise before sunrise once again. Bread will be mixed. Animals will be fed. Children will fetch water. Tools will be lifted. The ordinary rhythm will continue without announcement. History often passes this way. Not with loud voices. Not with great celebrations. But with quiet mornings that resemble the mornings before them. The scribe understands this better than most. His records preserve numbers. But behind every number lives a family. Behind every counted goat stands a child who helps lead it home. Behind every ox is a farmer who depends upon its strength. Behind every flock of sheep is a shepherd who has walked dusty roads since before dawn. Numbers alone never tell the whole story. Yet they quietly point toward it. A cool breeze passes across the fields. The scribe draws his linen cloak a little closer around his shoulders. The desert beyond the cultivated land has already begun releasing the heat it gathered throughout the day. Night in Egypt can feel surprisingly cool after long hours beneath the sun. He turns back toward the resting house. The lamps still glow softly inside the courtyard. Several travelers have already stretched out upon woven reed mats. One quietly adjusts a folded cloth beneath his head. Another watches the stars through the open roof before closing tired eyes. No one speaks now. Only the occasional crackle of cooling charcoal and the distant murmur of flowing water remain. The scribe places his carefully wrapped papyrus beside his writing palette. Tomorrow there will be another village. Another patient walk along dusty roads. Another collection of ordinary lives waiting to be counted with care. For now, however, the night asks nothing more of him than rest. He lies upon his reed mat, listening as the breeze moves gently through the date palm above the courtyard. Its leaves whisper softly against one another, while somewhere beyond the walls the Nile continues its quiet journey through the sleeping land, just as it has done for thousands of peaceful nights. The night deepens with remarkable patience. It does not arrive all at once. It settles over the land one quiet layer at a time, softening the edges of walls, cooling the dust beneath bare feet, and wrapping the villages along the Nile in a peaceful stillness. The day's voices fade until they become only distant memories carried gently upon the evening breeze. The resting house grows almost completely silent. Only the steady breathing of sleeping travelers remains. A merchant turns once upon his woven mat before becoming still again. The fisherman sleeps with one arm folded beneath his head. The stonemason, whose shoulders carried heavy blocks through another long day, slips into deep sleep almost as soon as his eyes close. The tax scribe sleeps quietly as well. His writing palette rests beside him. The rolled papyrus lies carefully wrapped in linen. Even in sleep, he keeps his work close. Not from worry. From habit. Outside the courtyard, the moon climbs higher above the river. Its pale light touches the tops of palm trees before spilling across the fields where barley and wheat sway gently in the cool night air. The irrigation channels shine like narrow ribbons of silver, carrying life through the dark as faithfully as they do beneath the bright sun. Somewhere along one of those canals, a watchman begins another slow walk. His duty is simple. He listens. He watches. He makes certain that no embankment has broken during the night. Water is precious. A damaged canal can leave one field thirsty while flooding another. So he walks carefully beneath the stars, carrying a small oil lamp whose flame flickers softly whenever the breeze rises. His sandals make almost no sound upon the packed earth. The frogs notice him before any person could. They fall silent for only a moment. Then, once he has passed, their gentle chorus begins again. The watchman pauses beside a wooden gate controlling the flow of water into a nearby field. He kneels. He places one weathered hand against the wood. Everything feels strong. The ropes remain tight. The water slips quietly beneath the gate exactly as it should. Satisfied, he stands again and continues along the canal. His footsteps slowly disappear into the darkness. Farther away, near the edge of the cultivated land, another kind of worker remains awake. A shepherd sits beside his flock. The sheep sleep in small groups gathered close together, their soft wool catching the moonlight like scattered clouds resting upon the earth. The shepherd leans against a smooth stone. His wooden staff lies across his knees. He has learned that the quietest hours often require the greatest patience. Most nights nothing happens at all. That is exactly how he hopes each night will pass. He listens to the wind moving through dry grasses. He watches the stars wheel slowly overhead. Every so often one of the sheep stirs, stands, takes a few sleepy steps, then settles once more. The shepherd smiles faintly. He knows nearly every animal by sight. Not because they are different in color. Because years spent together teach small differences that strangers never notice. One always sleeps near the edge of the flock. Another prefers the center. One old ewe rises before dawn every single morning regardless of the season. These tiny habits become familiar companions through the years. Back at the resting house, the night passes quietly. The oil lamps burn lower. Their flames become smaller until one finally fades away, leaving only the moonlight to brighten the courtyard. The keeper wakes briefly. He notices the dying lamp. Without making unnecessary noise, he covers the remaining ember with a small clay cup. There is no reason to waste oil once everyone is asleep. He returns to his own mat. Within moments, silence settles again. Hours drift gently onward. The moon begins its slow journey toward the western sky. A faint coolness settles over the earth. Mudbrick walls release the warmth they gathered during the afternoon. The breeze becomes fresh enough that some sleeping travelers pull light linen coverings over their shoulders. The tax scribe wakes for only a moment. He opens his eyes. The stars are still bright above the open courtyard. He listens. Nothing seems out of place. The frogs continue singing beside the canals. A donkey calls somewhere beyond the village before falling silent once more. Satisfied, he closes his eyes again. Sleep returns almost immediately. Long walks make restful sleep easy. While the travelers rest, life beside the Nile quietly continues. Fishermen preparing for the earliest morning catch begin stirring long before sunrise. Their homes remain dark. Only small cooking fires glow faintly as wives warm yesterday's bread and fill simple baskets with onions, dried fish, and fresh water. The fishermen speak little. Their voices remain soft so the children may continue sleeping. One man carefully checks the woven cords of his fishing net. Another smooths the edge of a wooden oar worn shiny by years of use. A younger fisherman watches closely. He has repaired nets beside his father since childhood. Now his own fingers move with growing confidence. Loop. Pull. Tighten. Again. 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 The knots become almost invisible. Strong enough to hold struggling fish. Small enough not to frighten them away. The older man nods with quiet approval. No praise is needed. The careful work speaks for itself. Not far away, inside another village, a baker wakes before nearly everyone else. The stars still fill the sky when she rises from her reed mat. She wraps a light linen cloth around her shoulders and steps into the cool darkness. The clay oven waits where yesterday's ashes have grown cold. She kneels. Fresh fuel is placed inside. A spark catches. Soon a gentle glow begins spreading through the oven. She pours grain into a heavy stone grinder. The sound is slow. Steady. Stone against stone. The rhythm has greeted countless Egyptian mornings. As the flour grows finer, the smell of fresh grain fills the small room. She mixes water. Adds salt. Kneads the dough patiently. Her hands know exactly how soft it should feel. Years of practice have taught them. No measuring is needed. Only touch. Outside, the eastern horizon remains dark. Yet somewhere beyond it, the sun has already begun its long journey upward. The first bird scents its approach before any human eye can see the light. A dove calls softly from the roof of a nearby house. Another answers. Then the village grows quiet once more. The tax scribe wakes before dawn. This time he remains awake. He sits slowly, allowing his eyes to adjust to the fading moonlight. The courtyard is peaceful. Several travelers still sleep deeply. The merchant has not moved since midnight. The fisherman murmurs briefly in his dreams before becoming silent again. The keeper is already awake. He sweeps yesterday's dust from the courtyard using a broom made from bundled reeds. The soft brushing sound seems perfectly suited to the hour before sunrise. Neither man speaks immediately. Words can wait. Morning has its own quiet language. The keeper finishes sweeping before walking toward the large water jar. He fills 2 small cups. One he offers to the scribe. The water is wonderfully cool. It carries the fresh taste of deep clay storage jars that have protected it through the night. The scribe drinks slowly. He thanks the keeper with a gentle nod. Soon another small fire is lit. Not for a large meal. Only enough to warm yesterday's bread and prepare a little porridge from crushed barley. The smell spreads softly through the cool air. One by one the other travelers begin waking. The merchant stretches carefully. The stonemason rubs sleep from tired eyes. The fisherman smiles as though he has already heard the river calling him. No one rushes. There is still time before sunrise. The eastern sky now shows the faintest hint of pale gray. Stars closest to the horizon begin disappearing. One by one they quietly fade. The moon grows softer. Palm trees slowly emerge from the darkness. Their outlines become clearer with every passing moment. The scribe unwraps yesterday's papyrus once more. Morning light is often kinder to careful eyes. He checks each line again before beginning a new day's work. The numbers remain exactly as he remembered. Nothing has blurred. Nothing has smudged. The ink has settled beautifully into the fibers. He smiles almost imperceptibly. The records are ready to travel. Soon they will be joined by another day's careful counting. Another village. Another collection of families. Another slow walk beneath the ever-changing light of the Egyptian sky. The keeper places a simple breakfast upon a woven mat. Fresh bread. A few dates. Goat's milk. Small bowls of crushed beans flavored with herbs. The travelers gather together without ceremony. They eat quietly while the first rays of sunlight finally touch the highest palm leaves along the Nile. A golden glow spreads across the landscape. Birds become suddenly busy. The frogs grow silent. The cool air begins its slow transformation toward another warm day. The scribe gathers his writing tools. He ties the leather strap across his shoulder. He thanks the keeper for the night's shelter. The keeper smiles. May your counting be easy today. And may your house remain peaceful. Simple wishes. honestly given. The road waits beyond the courtyard gate. Its surface is smooth from generations of passing feet, hooves, carts, and quiet journeys. The scribe steps onto it just as the sun rises above the eastern horizon. Long shadows stretch across the fields. The Nile catches the first bright light of morning. A new day has begun. And somewhere ahead, another village is already waking, where families are opening their doors, tending their animals, baking their bread, and beginning another ordinary day that will, before long, become another carefully counted page in the quiet history of ancient Egypt. The morning unfolds slowly across the valley, as though the land itself prefers not to hurry. The first rays of sunlight rest upon the tops of the palm trees before reaching the fields below. Dew, light and delicate, clings to the edges of reeds beside the Nile. For only a few quiet moments, tiny drops catch the morning light like polished glass. Soon the warmth of the rising sun will carry them gently back into the air. The tax scribe walks with long, easy steps along the familiar road. His sandals press shallow prints into the cool dust. Behind him, the resting house grows smaller until it blends into the landscape of mud brick walls and date palms. Ahead, the road follows the gentle curve of the river, never straying far from the water that gives life to everything around it. Morning belongs to those who begin their work before the heat arrives. Already the fields are busy. Two brothers guide a pair of oxen through dark soil still moist from yesterday's irrigation. The wooden plow creaks softly with every step the animals take. One brother walks beside the oxen, holding the yoke steady. The other follows behind, watching the furrows form neat, straight lines across the earth. Neither speaks very much. Their work has its own rhythm. The oxen know the pace. The men know the field. The sun knows its path. Everything moves together without needing many words. A little farther along the road, women gather beside a village well. Large clay jars rest at their feet. One by one, ropes disappear into the cool darkness below. Moments later, heavy buckets rise again, dripping clear water back into the morning light. The women lift the jars with practiced grace. Some balance them upon their heads. Others carry them against one hip. They have done this almost every day since childhood. Their steps remain steady even with the weight of the water. As they return toward the village, quiet conversations drift through the cool air. They speak of a neighbor whose baby has begun taking its first steps. They speak of a fig tree that promises a generous harvest. They wonder whether the flood this year will arrive a little earlier than last. These conversations are gentle. They rise and fall like the breeze moving through the reeds. The tax scribe smiles politely as he passes. Many of the women recognize him. One laughs softly. "You counted our goats last spring." "I remember them. They have become noisier." "They usually do." The women smile. Simple words. Simple kindness. Then everyone continues toward the work waiting ahead. The road narrows where it passes between tall stands of papyrus. Their green stalks sway gently beside the river. Tiny birds dart among them so quickly that they seem almost like drifting leaves carried by invisible currents. The air here feels cooler. Moisture rises from the water, bringing with it the fresh scent of reeds and wet earth. The scribe pauses for only a moment. He kneels beside the river. He cups both hands into the flowing water. The Nile moves quietly between his fingers. Cool. Smooth. Endlessly patient. He washes the dust from his hands before filling his water jar once again. Nearby, an elderly fisherman repairs one of his nets. He sits upon a flat stone facing the river. His fingers move slowly through the tangled cords. Every broken knot receives careful attention. Every weak place is strengthened before the boat returns to the water. The fisherman looks up. The river is calm today. It is. A calm river makes gentle rowing. The scribe nods. An easier counting. The fisherman chuckles quietly. There is truth in that. For a few peaceful moments neither man says anything more. They simply watch the current. A pair of ducks glides across the water. Farther downstream, another fishing boat begins drifting away from shore. Its sail catches the morning breeze with barely a sound. The village ahead slowly comes into view. It is smaller than the one visited yesterday. Only a handful of homes stand beneath a cluster of palm trees. Thin lines of smoke rise from cooking fires. The smell of fresh bread arrives long before the houses themselves. Children chase chickens through the narrow lanes while mothers call gently for them to stay close. A dog stretches lazily beside a doorway before finding a sunny place to rest. Life here begins just as it does in every village along the Nile. Quietly. Patiently. Without ceremony. The village headman notices the approaching traveler. He walks forward with measured steps. His beard is neatly trimmed. His linen robe is freshly washed. Though simple, it shows the care with which it has been mended over the years. You are expected. The message arrived yesterday. The scribe smiles. Then the families have had time to gather their animals. They have. That will make today's work easier. The headman nods. Easier for everyone. They walk together through the village. The streets are narrow but clean. Women sweep away yesterday's dust using bundles of dried reeds. Children carry small baskets of grain toward chicken coops. One elderly man carefully repairs the woven roof covering above his doorway. His grandson hands him fresh reeds one at a time. No one appears surprised by the scribe's arrival. His visits are simply another part of village life. Near the center of the settlement stands an open space shaded by two large sycamore trees. Families have already begun gathering there. Goats wait inside temporary pens built from wooden hurdles. Several sheep stand quietly together beneath the shade. A pair of oxen rests near a trough filled with fresh water. Even the animals seem calmer in the cool morning air. The scribe greets each family in turn. Some faces are familiar. Others belong to younger people who have recently taken responsibility for their parents' households. An old farmer steps forward. The scribe remembers him immediately. Last year the man walked with a strong, even stride. This morning he leans gently upon a polished wooden staff. Time has quietly settled into his knees. Yet his smile remains exactly the same. You have walked many roads since we last met. I have. And you still remember this village. I remember every village that offers good bread. The old farmer laughed softly. My daughter baked before sunrise. Then today will surely be a good day. A warm loaf is soon placed beside the writing pallet. The smell fills the morning air. Fresh grain. A little sesame. A hint of smoke from the clay oven. The scribe breaks away only a small piece. There will be time for more after the work. The counting begins while the shadows are still long. Morning light is kind to careful eyes. Each goat steps forward calmly. The scribe studies its markings. He listens as each owner quietly confirms the number of animals belonging to the household. Then the reed pen moves once more across fresh papyrus. Its gentle scratching becomes the steady heartbeat of the morning. One mark. Another. Then another. The children gather nearby. They watch with enormous curiosity. One little boy tries to count along. He whispers each number beneath his breath. Sometimes he loses track. Sometimes he begins again from the beginning. No one minds. Learning often begins with quiet observation. The scribe notices him. When one family finishes, he turns the writing palette slightly so the child can see the fresh marks more clearly. The boy studies the symbols with complete concentration. They look like little pictures. In a way, the scribe replies. They help us remember. So the paper remembers too. The scribe smiles warmly. Yes. The paper remembers for all of us. The child nods slowly. He seems satisfied with that answer. Perhaps many years from now he will remember this morning. Perhaps he will become a scribe himself. Or perhaps he will remain a farmer whose hands know soil better than ink. Either path is honorable. Both help the kingdom endure. As the sun climbs higher, the village grows busier. A potter shapes clay outside his workshop. The wheel turns with gentle rhythm. Nearby, a woman hangs freshly washed linen upon a rope stretched between two date palms. The cloth stirs softly in the breeze. Bright white against the blue morning sky. Across the square, an elderly grandmother shells peas into a woven basket while humming the same quiet tune she has sung for longer than anyone can remember. Her youngest granddaughter sits beside her, trying to hum along. The notes wander here and there. Sometimes they match. Sometimes they do not. The grandmother simply smiles and continues singing. The melody has no need to be perfect. It only needs to be shared. The scribe finishes another household. Then another. Each completed line adds to the growing record of ordinary lives. Goats. Sheep. A patient donkey. 2 sturdy oxen. A pair of young calves born since the last counting. Every number tells a small story. Not of kings or temples, but of careful feeding. Long days in the fields. Children carrying water. Parents rising before dawn. Years of quiet effort beneath the generous yet demanding Egyptian sun. The morning continues with the same gentle rhythm. The breeze carries the scent of baking bread, damp earth, and flowering date palms. Birds call from the reeds. The Nile flows unseen beyond the trees, steady as ever. And beneath the broad shade of the sycamores, the scribe dips his reed pen once more into black ink, lifts his eyes toward the next waiting family, and begins another careful count that will quietly become part of the living memory of ancient Egypt. The morning grows older with quiet certainty. The coolness that welcomed the first light begins to fade, though traces of it still linger beneath the broad branches of the sycamore trees. The shade moves slowly across the ground as the sun climbs higher, and with it the people gathered in the village shift their stools, baskets, and water jars a little at a time. No one thinks much about these small movements. They happen naturally. The sun changes. People change with it. The tax scribe gently smooths the newest sheet of papyrus across his wooden writing board. The surface feels slightly rough beneath his fingertips. Every sheet is made from the tall papyrus plants that grow along the quiet edges of the Nile. Long before becoming a page for careful records, those green stalks swayed beside the river, bending with every passing breeze. Now they carry another kind of life. The life of memory. A fresh reed pen is lifted from the writing palette. The tip has been trimmed with careful hands. Sharp enough to make clean lines. Soft enough not to tear the papyrus. The scribe dips it lightly into black ink. A tiny drop gathers at the end before touching the page. The next family steps forward. A husband. A wife. Their 3 children. Behind them wait 6 goats, 1 donkey, and a small calf born only a few weeks before. The calf stays close to its mother. Whenever she moves, it follows without hesitation. Its legs still seem a little uncertain. Now and then it stumbles slightly before finding its balance again. The youngest child watches with great interest. He laughs quietly each time the little animal gives a playful hop. His mother gently places a hand upon his shoulder. "Stay close." He nods. His eyes never leave the calf. The scribe begins counting. His voice remains calm. The numbers come one after another with the same steady rhythm he has used for many years. Each animal receives a careful glance. The owner quietly confirms the count. The reed pen scratches softly across the papyrus. Nothing is hurried. Nothing is overlooked. The village itself seems to breathe in time with the work. From nearby comes the steady sound of grain being ground between heavy stones. A woman kneels beside the mill. Her hands push the upper stone forward. Then pull it back. Forward. Back. Again. Again. The motion is slow but strong. Fine flour gathers little by little beneath the stone. She pauses only to brush a few loose strands of hair away from her face before continuing. Her daughter sits nearby sorting lentils into clay bowls. Every now and then she removes a tiny pebble that found its way into the harvest. Small tasks. Patient tasks. The kind that fill many hours without anyone noticing how quickly time has passed. The tax scribe finishes another line of writing. He gently blows across the fresh ink. The warm morning air helps it dry almost immediately. He rolls the completed section just enough to protect it from dust while leaving room for the next entries. Years of practice have taught him exactly how to handle the scroll. Too much pressure could crease it. Too little might allow the wind to catch its edge. His hands know the balance. A pair of elderly sisters approach carrying woven baskets. Inside are fresh dates gathered only yesterday. Their skins shine softly in the sunlight. The sisters offer several to everyone working beneath the trees. No one refuses. The sweetness is welcome. The scribe thanks them with a gentle smile. The dates are soft. Warm from the morning sun. Simple food, yet full of quiet comfort. The older sister laughs softly. My grandchildren eat them faster than I can gather them. That is usually a good sign, the scribe replies. It means they are growing. She nods. I suppose it does. The conversation ends there. It needs nothing more. Nearby, an old shepherd sits upon a smooth stone while waiting for his flock's turn. His wooden staff rests across his lap. Its surface has become polished after many years beneath his hands. He traces one finger along the wood almost absent-mindedly. Tiny marks carved into it tell their own quiet story. One mark for each flood season. Another for the birth of a favorite lamb. A few more added during long evenings while watching the stars. No one else would understand every mark. He remembers each one. The staff has become a silent companion. The scribe notices it. That staff has traveled many roads. The shepherd smiles. So have these feet. He lifts one sandal slightly. Its leather has been repaired many times. Fresh stitching crosses older stitching. Nothing has been thrown away while it could still serve. That is true of many things here. Clay jars are patched. Baskets are rewoven. Clothing is mended. Wooden handles receive new bindings. Life beside the Nile teaches respect for every useful object. The shepherd's sheep are brought forward. They gather close together beneath the shade. Their wool carries tiny seeds collected during weeks of wandering across grassy banks and dry paths. A small lamb presses itself against its mother's side. Its ears twitch whenever a fly lands nearby. The counting begins once more. 1, 2, 3. The shepherd quietly repeats each number. Not because he doubts the scribe. Because he has counted these same sheep almost every evening before leading them safely into their enclosure. The two men finish at the same moment. The numbers agree perfectly. The shepherd smiles with quiet satisfaction. It seems they have all behaved themselves. For another season, the scribe answers. The shepherd laughs gently. As much as sheep ever do. The sound is warm but brief. Soon both men return to the comfortable silence that surrounds the morning. The breeze freshens for a little while. It carries the scent of wet clay from the riverbank where several potters gather fresh earth. Large baskets filled with smooth gray mud are loaded onto donkeys. The animals begin their slow journey back toward the workshops. Each step leaves a neat print in the soft ground before reaching the dusty road again. Farther away, the steady tapping of carpenters echoes through the village. Wood is valuable. Nothing is cut without purpose. A young apprentice carefully smooths the handle of a farming tool using a rough stone. His master watches without speaking. Only after several moments does he nod. The handle feels balanced. Comfortable. Ready for another season of work. Lessons here are often quiet. Approval comes with a simple nod rather than many words. The sun rises a little higher. Children begin searching for patches of shade beneath the trees. One little girl sits beside her grandmother weaving thin strands of papyrus into a small mat. Her fingers move slowly. Sometimes the strips slip free. She patiently begins again. Her grandmother never hurries her. Some skills cannot be rushed. They settle into the hands over many seasons. The tax scribe watches them for only a moment before returning to his records. Each family waits with calm patience. There is no pushing forward. No raised voices. Everyone understands that careful work asks for time. The waiting itself becomes part of the day. Some families use those quiet moments to mend ropes. Others peel vegetables for the midday meal. An elderly man sharpens the edge of a small harvesting knife using a smooth sandstone block. The scraping sound is slow and even. A woman rocks her sleeping baby beneath the shade. The child breathes softly, untouched by thoughts of taxes, records, or the passing seasons. For now, the whole world is simply warmth, gentle voices, and the steady beat of a mother's heart. The scribe reaches another fresh section of papyrus. He pauses briefly to stretch his fingers. Writing asks different muscles than walking. Hours of careful marks leave a pleasant stiffness in his hand. He flexes his fingers once. Twice. Then dips the reed pen into ink again. A tiny breeze catches the corner of the papyrus. His free hand gently steadies it. Even the wind seems unwilling to disturb the careful record. Across the square, the smell of baking bread grows stronger. Another batch has just been lifted from a clay oven. The baker places each loaf upon a woven tray to cool. Steam rises softly into the warm air. A few sparrows gather hopefully nearby, searching for scattered crumbs. One lands boldly beside the oven. The baker smiles. She breaks off the smallest piece of bread and tosses it gently toward the little bird. It disappears almost immediately. The other sparrows hurry closer. For a few cheerful moments, tiny wings flutter across the dusty ground before the birds scatter once more into the branches overhead. The village returns to its gentle rhythm. The counting continues. The writing continues. The Nile continues its endless journey beyond the trees. and beneath the slowly shifting shade of the ancient sycamores, another quiet morning settles into memory, one careful number at a time, preserving not only livestock, but the patient lives of the people who rose each dawn to care for them with steady hands and hopeful hearts. By the time the sun stands well above the eastern horizon, the village has settled into the familiar rhythm of late morning. The cool air that greeted the dawn has almost disappeared. Warmth now rests upon the rooftops, the stone paths, and the broad leaves of the date palms. Even the mud brick walls seem to hold the sunlight, slowly giving it back to the air. The shade beneath the sycamore trees becomes more valuable with every passing moment. Families move their stools a little closer to the trunks. Water jars are carried into the deepest shade. Children who had been chasing one another through the square now sit beside their parents, content to watch the grown UPS work. The tax scribe pauses for a quiet breath. He has filled nearly half another scroll since sunrise. His fingers carry faint traces of black ink. A little dust clings to his sandals. His shoulders feel pleasantly tired from the long walk that began before dawn. These small signs tell him the day is moving as it should. Nothing unusual has happened. That, in itself, is a blessing. A peaceful day leaves room for careful work. The village headman returns carrying a small clay bowl. Inside are fresh figs, split open by the warmth of the morning. Their sweet fragrance drifts gently through the shade. You should eat. There is still much counting. There will always be counting. The scribe smiles. And there should always be figures. The headman laughs quietly. I hoped you would say that. They share the fruit without hurry. The figs are soft and warm from the tree. Tiny seeds crunch gently between the teeth. A little sweetness lingers afterward, mixing with the cool taste of water from the nearby jar. Around them, life continues almost unnoticed. A young mother rocks a cradle woven from reeds. The baby inside sleeps peacefully despite the growing warmth. From time to time she brushes away a curious fly with the edge of her linen shawl. The child sighs once, stretches tiny fingers toward the bright sky, and settles again into deep sleep. Across the square, two elderly men sit repairing a fishing net. The net has served many seasons. Some of its knots have loosened. Several strands have broken completely. The men work together without speaking very much. One holds the net steady. The other threads fresh cord through each opening. Their hands move with quiet certainty. They have repaired nets together for so many years that conversation is almost unnecessary. Every now and then one points silently toward another weak place. The other nods. The work continues. The tax scribe watches for only a moment before returning to the families waiting patiently beneath the trees. The next household owns several goats and a pair of sturdy donkeys. The donkeys have spent much of their lives carrying sacks of grain between nearby villages. Their backs are broad. Their hooves are worn smooth by dusty roads. One lowers its head toward the scribe's writing board, curious about the unfamiliar smell of ink. The children laugh softly. The scribe reaches out and gently scratches the animal behind one ear. The donkey closes its eyes for a moment, perfectly content. There, the owner says with a smile. Now he believes he has helped with the counting. Perhaps he has. The scribe makes another careful mark upon the papyrus. Sometimes the smallest moments become the ones remembered longest. Not because they are important. Because they are peaceful. The breeze shifts. Instead of coming from the river, it now drifts across open fields where barley has nearly reached its full height. The scent changes. Warm grain. Dry earth. Fresh straw stacked beside storage sheds. The smell reminds many of the coming harvest. There is still work ahead before that time arrives. But the promise already hangs quietly in the air. A farmer standing nearby follows the breeze with thoughtful eyes. My father always said you could smell the harvest before you could see it. The scribe nods. My father said the same. The farmer smiles. Perhaps all fathers say such things. Perhaps they do. Their words drift away with the wind. Neither feels the need to say more. The counting continues. One family after another. One careful line after another. The scroll grows longer. The ink dries quickly beneath the warmth of the sun. Nearby, a young apprentice carries several empty grain baskets toward a storage house. The baskets are woven from reeds gathered months earlier along the Nile. They are light now. Soon they will become heavy with barley and wheat. The boy pauses beneath the shade to rest. His master notices. You may sit for a little while. The apprentice nods gratefully. He lowers the baskets. Flexes tired fingers. Takes a slow drink from a water skin. Then, after only a few quiet moments, he rises again and continues his work. Rest has done exactly what it was meant to do. Not far away, a potter opens the door of a small kiln. Warm air escapes into the village. Inside, newly fired bowls glow faintly before cooling. Each one is slightly different. One leans almost too far to one side. Another carries tiny marks left by the potter's fingertips. None are perfect. All are useful. Soon they will hold water, grain, oil, or bread inside homes throughout the valley. The potter lifts each piece carefully. Experience has taught him which bowls may still be too warm to touch. His apprentice watches every movement closely. Learning often happens in silence. The tax scribe reaches another family. An elderly widow waits beside 3 goats and a single old donkey. She lives with her eldest daughter and 2 grandchildren. The donkey no longer carries heavy loads. Instead, it walks slowly beside the grandchildren whenever they travel to gather reeds. Its pace matches theirs perfectly. The widow strokes the animal's neck while the counting takes place. He has grown old with us. The scribe looks kindly at the donkey. So have many good friends. She smiles. Her eyes rest upon the animal for another quiet moment. Some companions ask for little. A handful of grain. A cool drink. A gentle hand. In return they offer years of faithful service. The reed pen moves again. The numbers are recorded. The widow thanks the scribe with a slight bow before leading the donkey back toward the shade. The square grows quieter as the warmth increases. Even the birds sing less often now. A few settle among the highest branches where cooler breezes still move through the leaves. The goats lie down. Sheep gather closely together. Dogs stretch beneath wagons and close their eyes. The village itself seems to slow its breathing. No one fights the heat. They simply move with it. A group of women carries damp linen cloths from the river. The fabric glistens in the sunlight. Soon it will be spread across smooth stones to dry. As they walk, they speak softly about the coming festival after the harvest. One wonders whether enough dates have been preserved. Another promises to bring honey from her brother's hives farther north. Their plans are modest. Simple meals. Music played upon old instruments. Neighbors gathered together after months of labor. Such occasions are treasured because they arrive only after much patient work. The scribe listens only in passing. His attention returns to the scroll before him. There is another household waiting. Another careful record to complete. A little girl approaches carrying a tiny clay cup. My mother says you should drink. Inside is cool water scented faintly with mint leaves gathered near the canal. The scribe accepts it gratefully. The water is refreshing. The mint leaves leave behind a gentle coolness. He returns the cup with a warm smile. Please thank your mother. The girl nods proudly before hurrying back across the square. Children often enjoy being trusted with important tasks. Even something as simple as carrying water becomes a memory. Perhaps years from now she will remember this morning. The great trees. The smell of fresh bread. The sound of sheep. The careful scratching of ink upon papyrus. The quiet man who counted every animal with such patience. The sun continues climbing. Its light now falls almost straight downward. The shadows beneath the sycamores become shorter, gathering close around the trunks. The village prepares for the slow approach of midday. Work will continue. But more gently. More slowly. For the ancient Egyptians understood something the desert taught every generation. There is wisdom in moving with the day instead of against it. The tax scribe smooths another section of papyrus and looks toward the next family waiting beneath the fading morning shade. Once again he dips the reed pen into fresh ink. Once again the quiet counting begins. Beyond the village, the Nile flows steadily beneath the brilliant sky, carrying cool water through the warm land, just as it has for countless seasons, while another peaceful morning becomes another small, carefully written page in the long and gentle story of ancient Egypt. The sun reaches its highest place with calm certainty. By now, the morning has gently become midday. The shadows that once stretched across the village have gathered close beneath walls, trees, and people. The light is bright enough that many villagers narrow their eyes when they step beyond the shade. Heat settles softly over everything. The mudbrick homes grow warm on their sunlit sides while their interiors remain pleasantly cool. Clay jars resting against thick walls continue protecting their precious water. Even after many hours beneath the sun, the water inside remains refreshing, a quiet gift of careful craftsmanship passed from one generation to the next. The tax scribe lays his reed pen across the writing palette for a little while. The ink must rest. His hand must rest as well. Writing is gentle work, but gentle work performed for many hours asks for steady muscles and patient fingers. He stretches them slowly. First one hand. Then the other. There is no stiffness that cannot be eased with a little time. Around him, the village also begins its midday pause. The goats settle beneath woven shelters. Their breathing becomes slow and even. A few sheep lie together in the narrow shade cast by a low wall. One closes its eyes completely, trusting the quiet afternoon around it. The oxen stand almost motionless. Only their tails continue moving, brushing away flies that drift lazily through the warm air. Nearby, the village baker has finished the morning's work. The clay oven still holds its warmth, though the fire itself has become little more than glowing coals. Fresh loaves rest upon woven mats where they cool slowly before the midday meal. The smell of warm bread floats through the square. It mingles with the scent of crushed herbs, onions, and lentils simmering gently inside clay pots. No smell is hurried. Everything rises softly into the still air. The village headman approaches carrying a broad woven mat. Without speaking, he spreads it beneath the deepest shade of the larger sycamore tree. Soon several families gather there. Not for a celebration. Simply for the day's meal. Children sit beside parents. Grandparents lower themselves carefully onto the mat with slow, practiced movements. Bowls are passed from hand to hand. Bread is broken into generous pieces. No one counts the portions. Each person simply takes enough. The tax scribe is invited to join them. He accepts with quiet gratitude. Hospitality along the Nile is never loud. It comes through simple gestures. A place beneath the shade. A cup of cool water. A piece of bread still warm from the oven. A kind smile shared without expectation. The meal begins in peaceful silence. Fresh bread is dipped into thick lentils seasoned with garlic and herbs. Small onions add a gentle sweetness. Dates provide a little sweetness at the end. A clay bowl of goat's milk is shared among the older members of the family. The youngest children receive theirs first. No one speaks until hunger has softened. Only then do quiet conversations begin. An elderly woman remembers a flood many years earlier. The water reached the old fig tree. Her grandson looks toward the distant fields. I have never seen it rise that high. She smiles. You are still young. He nods thoughtfully. Perhaps one day he will tell the same story to children of his own. Stories travel through families the way the Nile travels through the valley. Slowly. Faithfully. Always moving forward. The tax scribe listens more than he speaks. Listening has become part of his work. Not because stories change the numbers upon the papyrus. Because stories help him remember the people behind those numbers. He remembers villages through voices as much as through roads. One family always speaks about fishing. Another about orchards. Another about weaving linen. Each place carries its own gentle character. When the meal ends, nobody rises immediately. The shade feels pleasant. The breeze has returned, carrying cool air from the river. Palm leaves rustle softly overhead. Some children lie upon their backs watching them move against the brilliant blue sky. A little boy traces shapes in the dust with a smooth stick. He draws goats. Then sheep. Then something that looks very much like the scribe holding a long scroll. His older sister giggles quietly. The arms are too long. So are yours. She laughs again. Soon both children begin drawing together. The figures become less important than the simple joy of making marks in the earth. The scribe notices them. He smiles without interrupting. Every child begins by drawing simple shapes long before learning the careful signs of writing. Perhaps every scribe once sat in the dust with a stick. The thought pleases him. Not far away, the village potter rests beneath his workshop awning. His hands remain stained with pale clay despite washing them in the canal before the meal. Fine lines of dried clay still fill the tiny creases around his fingers. He studies several bowls cooling nearby. One has developed a small crack. He sighs softly. Not with disappointment. With acceptance. Sometimes the fire chooses differently than the potter hopes. The cracked bowl will not be wasted. It may hold grain for chickens. Or water for a garden. Almost everything finds another purpose. Nothing useful is forgotten easily. As the hottest part of the day settles over the valley, many people naturally slow their work. The farmers know there is wisdom in waiting. Heavy labor beneath the strongest sunlight steals strength too quickly. Instead, they mend tools. Twist fresh rope. Repair baskets. Sharpen wooden plow parts beneath the shade. The work never truly stops. It simply changes. The tax scribe understands this rhythm well. He does not rush to begin counting again. The papyrus waits patiently. The livestock are comfortable where they rest. Accuracy belongs to calm hands, not hurried ones. He walks slowly toward the edge of the village where the irrigation canal passes beneath several date palms. The water moves quietly between smooth banks lined with reeds. Tiny fish dart through patches of sunlight dancing upon the surface. Dragonflies hover above the water with shimmering wings. Their movements are quick, almost impossible to follow. The scribe kneels. He wets a linen cloth in the cool canal. Then gently wipes dust from his face and neck. The relief is immediate. The cool water feels wonderfully refreshing after the long morning. Nearby sits an elderly basket weaver. His workshop is little more than a shaded corner beside his home. Bundles of dried reeds lie neatly arranged according to length and thickness. His fingers move with remarkable confidence. One reed passes over another. Then beneath. Then around again. The basket slowly rises from his lap. Strong. Flexible. Beautiful in its simplicity. The scribe watches quietly. How many baskets have you made? The old man pauses. He smiles. I stopped counting long ago. The answer makes the scribe laugh softly. Then perhaps I should not ask. If you did count them, the weaver continues gently, you might spend so much time remembering yesterday that you would miss today's basket. The words settle peacefully between them. Neither man says anything further. The basket continues growing. One careful weave at a time. The scribe eventually returns to the village square. The shade has shifted once again. People move with it almost unconsciously. Children have become sleepy after their meal. One little girl rests with her head in her grandmother's lap while the older woman gently strokes her hair. A baby sleeps inside a woven cradle hanging from a wooden frame. The cradle rocks ever so slightly whenever the breeze passes through. Its slow movement seems to match the quiet breathing of the child inside. Across the square, two brothers inspect a wooden yoke used for their oxen. One notices a small crack beginning near the center. They discuss how best to strengthen it before the next plowing season. Fresh wood will be added. Leather bindings tightened. Better to repair it now than wait until it fails in the field. Care given early often prevents greater trouble later. This lesson appears everywhere in village life. The tax scribe sits once more beneath the sycamore. He unrolls the papyrus carefully. The afternoon work will soon begin. His reed pen is dipped into fresh black ink. He studies the waiting families. Some smile. Others simply nod. Everyone understands the rhythm. The pause has ended. The quiet counting will begin again. Above them, the leaves of the ancient sycamore whisper together in the warm breeze. Beyond the village, fishermen guide their boats through the shining waters of the Nile. Farmers walk slowly back toward their fields. Potters return to their wheels. Weavers lift fresh bundles of flax. And beneath the generous shade of the old trees, another line of careful writing appears upon the papyrus, preserving one more ordinary afternoon in the endless, gentle rhythm of life beside the great river. The afternoon begins almost without anyone noticing. The pause beneath the trees has quietly come to an end. The bowls have been washed, the woven mats rolled and placed against cool walls, and the children who had grown sleepy after the midday meal now wander slowly back into the open square. Their voices remain gentle, softened by the warmth that still hangs over the village. The tax scribe settles once more upon his low wooden stool. He places the writing board across his knees. The papyrus is unrolled with great care until a fresh space appears below the last neat row of symbols. His ink has thickened slightly in the heat. He adds only a few drops of water from a tiny clay cup and stirs it with the end of the reed pen. The color becomes smooth again. Ready for another afternoon of patient work. The first family steps forward. Their animals have rested through the hottest part of the day. The goats rise slowly, stretching one leg after another before following their owner into the open space beneath the sycamores. Dust lifts gently beneath their hooves. It hangs in the sunlight for a few moments before settling again upon the earth. The scribe waits until every animal stands quietly. Then he begins. 1. A careful mark. 2. Another mark. 3. The rhythm returns as naturally as breathing. Nearby, an elderly woman spins flax into thread. She sits beneath the shade with a simple wooden spindle balanced lightly between her fingers. The spindle turns. Twists. Turns again. Long pale fibers become strong thread through steady hands and endless patience. Every now and then she moistens her fingertips before drawing another length of flax. The thread grows almost without interruption. Watching her work feels very much like watching the scribe write. Both tasks depend upon small, careful movements repeated many hundreds of times. Neither can be hurried. A young girl sits beside the spinner. She holds a basket filled with loose flax fibers. From time to time she gently untangles them before placing another small bundle into her grandmother's waiting hand. She says almost nothing. She has learned that quiet hands often work best. Across the square, the village carpenter is repairing a wooden grain chest. Years of opening and closing have worn one hinge until it no longer fits properly. He removes it carefully. Shapes a fresh piece of wood. Tests it. Adjusts it. Tests it again. The lid finally closes with a smooth, satisfying movement. He smiles only slightly. The chest has many more years of service ahead. A nearby farmer watches with appreciation. Good tools and good storage keep a household secure. The tax scribe finishes another household. The owner quietly confirms every number. Nothing has changed since the previous season except for one young goat born during the spring. The scribe adds the new figure with a steady hand. A single mark upon the papyrus. A single new life carefully remembered. The farmer watches the ink dry. It is strange. What is? That one little goat becomes only one small mark. The scribe looks thoughtfully at the fresh writing. To the page, yes. But not to your family. The farmer smiles. No. Not to us. For a few moments both men stand quietly. The little goat wanders toward its mother and presses gently against her side. The afternoon breeze stirs the leaves overhead. The moment passes naturally into the next. Beyond the village, the wheat fields shimmer beneath the sunlight. Their color has deepened over recent weeks. Golden tones now mingle with soft green. Each passing day brings the harvest a little nearer. Several farmers walk slowly along the edges of their fields. They are not working heavily now. Instead, they simply observe. They check the irrigation channels. Look for signs of insects. Feel the heads of grain between weathered fingers. Much of farming depends upon careful noticing. The land often speaks quietly. Only patient people hear it well. Near one canal, a father walks with his young son. The boy carries a tiny wooden hoe much too small for serious work. Still, he holds it proudly. From time to time he copies his father's movements. The furrows he makes are crooked. His father says nothing. There will be many years ahead to straighten them. For today, learning is enough. Back beneath the sycamores, another family approaches. Their household owns no cattle. Only sheep. A great many sheep. The flock arrives in slow waves of white wool and gentle movement. Several shepherd dogs circle quietly around the edges, guiding the animals without barking. The scribe waits patiently while the flock settles. Counting sheep requires a different kind of attention. One animal easily hides behind another. A lamb slips beneath the side of its mother. An old ram wanders toward a patch of dry grass. Nothing unusual. Simply the ordinary nature of sheep. The shepherd smiles apologetically. They never stand where I hope. They have always been that way. And they always will be. The scribe nods. That makes them easy to remember. Both men share a quiet laugh. Not loud. Not long. Just enough to brighten the warm afternoon before returning once more to the steady work. The counting begins. Each sheep passes slowly through a narrow opening between two wooden posts. One at a time. The shepherd touches each gently across the back as it passes. The scribe records every number. The process takes time. No one minds. The children sitting beneath the tree begin counting softly as well. Sometimes they lose track. Then begin again. The smallest girl reaches 20 before proudly announcing her success. Her older brother whispers that there are many more still waiting. She opens her eyes wide. So many. So many. She laughs quietly and begins counting once again. The scribe hears them. Their voices blend gently with the rustling leaves and the soft sounds made by the flock. He remembers being a young student many years earlier. His own teacher had insisted upon counting everything. Bundles of reeds. Clay jars. Baskets of grain. Flocks of birds flying overhead. Not because every number mattered. Because careful attention mattered. Numbers were simply another way of learning to observe the world. A cool gust arrives unexpectedly from the river. It carries the scent of water lilies growing near the shallows. The leaves above the square begin whispering more loudly for a few moments. Loose strands of flax dance gently in the spinner's basket. Children lift their faces toward the welcome breeze. Even the sheep seem to relax. The afternoon suddenly feels easier. A merchant enters the village leading two donkeys loaded with woven baskets. He has traveled since early morning from a settlement farther north. The baskets carry salt, dried fish, and fine linen cloth carefully wrapped against the dust. He greets the headman respectfully before leading his animals toward the shade. Trade moves slowly through Egypt. Not with great caravans every day. More often with travelers like this man. Patient people following familiar roads between familiar villages. Bringing what one place has in abundance to another that has less. The merchant removes the packs from the donkeys. The animals immediately lower their heads toward a trough of fresh water. Long journeys make simple comforts feel especially welcome. The scribe notices the merchant only briefly before returning to his work. There is another line to finish. Another careful entry waiting upon the page. His reed pen glides steadily across the papyrus. The symbols appear one after another with practiced confidence. Years of writing have made each movement smooth and graceful. Nearby, the grandmother spinning flax begins humming once more. The melody is slow. Gentle. Older than anyone present can remember. Without realizing it, the young girl beside her begins humming too. Their voices are soft enough to mingle with the breeze itself. No audience listens. None is needed. The song belongs to the afternoon. It belongs to the shade. It belongs to ordinary work shared between generations. The sun begins its slow journey toward the western sky. The fierce brightness softens almost imperceptibly. Long before anyone notices the change with their eyes, they feel it upon their skin. The heat grows a little kinder. The breeze a little cooler. The village prepares, almost without thinking, for another peaceful evening that waits patiently beyond the remaining hours of daylight. The tax scribe finishes another column of careful writing. He gently lifts the papyrus to admire the drying ink. Another page of ordinary lives has been preserved. Another quiet afternoon has found its place within the long, unbroken rhythm of ancient Egypt, where every counted animal, every shared loaf of bread, every repaired tool, and every patient hand became part of a history that was lived far more often in silence than in celebration. The afternoon slowly begins to lean toward evening. The change is almost too gentle to notice at first. The sunlight still fills the village square, yet its brightness has softened. The harsh white glow of midday has become warmer, richer, carrying hints of amber that settle upon the mud brick walls and the broad trunks of the old sycamore trees. The shadows begin their quiet return. Little by little they stretch farther across the ground, reaching toward places where only moments before the sunlight had rested. The people notice without speaking. A woman carrying baskets of onions chooses a different path where the shade now reaches. Children move their games beneath the branches. Even the village dogs wander from one patch of cool earth to another, following the slow movement of the shadows. The tax scribe notices these small changes almost without thinking. Years spent walking from village to village have taught him to measure the passing hours without looking toward the sky. The angle of a shadow, the warmth of the breeze, the songs of birds, the smell drifting from cooking fires. All of them quietly tell the time. He adjusts the position of his stool. Only the width of one hand. Just enough to remain beneath the generous shade of the sycamore. His writing board rests comfortably across his knees once more. The papyrus lies smooth before him. The next household approaches. They are fishermen. Unlike many of the farming families, they own only a few animals. 2 goats. A small donkey. Several ducks that spend much of their day wandering the marshes beside the Nile. The ducks arrive first. They waddle into the open square with complete confidence, paying very little attention to anyone around them. One pauses beside the scribe's sandal and tilts its head curiously. The children watching nearby cover their smiles with small hands. The scribe waits patiently. The duck eventually decides there is nothing interesting about a sandal after all and wanders away in search of something more exciting. Only then does the counting continue. The fisherman chuckles softly. They believe the whole village belongs to them. They certainly walk as though it does. The men smile. Then the reed pen begins moving once more. One careful mark follows another. The ducks are counted. The goats are counted. The donkey waits quietly, as though understanding that his turn will come soon enough. The fisherman thanks the scribe before leading his little household of animals back toward the river. Their footsteps fade into the gentle sounds of the afternoon. Beyond the square, the village potter has finished shaping the day's final bowl. He lifts it carefully from the wheel. Its walls are smooth. Its rim is even. He places it beside several others that wait upon long wooden boards to dry before firing. The apprentice beside him wipes clay from his hands. He studies the finished bowls with quiet admiration. One day, he hopes, his own work will look as balanced. His master notices the thoughtful expression. Without speaking, he places the newest bowl into the apprentice's hands. The young man turns it slowly, feeling its weight, its shape, the smoothness beneath his fingertips. Some lessons require no words at all. Across the village, the steady tapping of a loom echoes softly from an open doorway. Inside, a weaver sits surrounded by threads of pale linen. The loom is simple. Wooden beams. Carefully stretched threads. A shuttle passing back and forth. Each movement is measured. Forward. Back. Pull tight. Again. Again. Hours pass this way. The growing cloth hangs like a pale waterfall before the weaver. Soon it may become a robe. Or a sail. Or perhaps another sheet of linen wrapped carefully around a precious papyrus scroll. Nothing is wasted. Everything finds its purpose. The tax scribe reaches the final households waiting beneath the sycamore. The village has been patient. No one has complained about the long hours. Everyone understands that careful records belong to everyone equally. An elderly widow steps forward carrying a small basket. Inside rests a young kid goat no larger than a bundle of reeds. Its legs are still too uncertain for long walks. The little animal blinks slowly in the afternoon light. The widow smiles. He was born only 4 mornings ago. The scribe leans forward. The kid looks up with wide, curious eyes. For a moment they simply observe one another. Then the scribe carefully adds another small mark to the record. One more life. One more quiet beginning. The widow gently lifts the kid once again. It nestles comfortably against her shoulder as she walks away. Watching them disappear into the narrow village lane leaves a warm feeling that lingers for several moments. Not because anything remarkable has happened. Because ordinary tenderness has its own quiet beauty. The breeze freshens. Palm leaves whisper overhead. The smell of fresh bread begins drifting through the village once again. Evening baking has started. Clay ovens are lit for the second time today. Smoke rises in thin blue ribbons that disappear into the clear sky. A young baker brushes flour from her hands before placing another round loaf inside the glowing oven. Her father watches the fire carefully. Too much heat hardens the crust too quickly. Too little leaves the center uncooked. Good bread asks for patient attention. Very much like good writing. The scribe smiles at the thought. Nearby, 2 boys carry bundles of dry reeds toward a storage shed. The bundles are almost as tall as they are. They stop once to rest beneath a date palm. One wipes sweat from his forehead. The other notices a small lizard sunning itself upon a warm stone. For several quiet moments they watch it. The tiny creature remains perfectly still. Only its bright eyes move. Then, as quickly as it appeared, it slips between 2 stones and disappears. The boys shoulder their bundles once more and continue toward the shed. Small moments like these fill the spaces between larger tasks. No one plans them. Yet they quietly shape the memory of an ordinary day. The tax scribe rolls one completed section of papyrus. He ties it loosely with a linen cord before opening a fresh section. There is not much left to write. Only a few final households remain. The work that began before sunrise is slowly approaching its end. He notices the ink has become lower inside its tiny clay well. Soon it will need to be mixed again. Not today. Tomorrow morning. Another small task waiting patiently. Nothing in his work is ever truly finished. Each completed day simply prepares the next. A shepherd arrives from distant grazing land. His flock has spent the afternoon beside the river meadows where fresh grass still grows thick after the last flood. The sheep appear content. Their wool catches the afternoon light with a soft golden glow. Several lambs skip playfully around the older animals before settling beside their mothers. The shepherd removes his wide straw hat. His face carries the deep color earned through many seasons beneath the Egyptian sun. You have waited for me. The sheep cannot hurry the grass. He laughs quietly. No. They never have. The counting begins. The flock passes slowly between 2 wooden rails built earlier that morning. Each animal receives only a brief glance. Yet every glance is careful. The scribe's eyes miss very little. Years of practice have trained him to notice small differences. A torn ear. A broken horn. A new lamb. An older ewe no longer walking quite as steadily. Each detail quietly settles into memory. The shepherd watches with quiet respect. Good counting protects everyone. When the final sheep passes through the rails, both men arrive at the same number. The shepherd smiles with satisfaction. It has been a good season. It has. May the next be just as gentle. The scribe nods. I hope so. The afternoon light grows warmer still. Long shadows stretch across the open square. Children gather scattered toys made from reeds and smooth stones. Women begin carrying water toward their homes. The smell of lentils, onions, garlic, and fresh bread grows stronger with every passing moment. Soon families will gather for the evening meal. Soon the birds will return to their nests among the palms. Soon the river will reflect the colors of sunset once more. But for now, beneath the ancient sycamores that have shaded generations before them, the tax scribe lowers his reed pen onto the papyrus once again. Its quiet scratching joins the whisper of leaves overhead and the distant murmur of the Nile, adding another peaceful page to the gentle, unhurried story of ordinary life in ancient Egypt, where history was written not only in temples and palaces, but in patient hands, familiar faces, and the careful counting of every creature entrusted to a family's care. The sun begins its slow descent toward the western horizon. Its light no longer falls straight upon the village. Instead, it stretches across the fields in long golden ribbons, touching every wall, every palm trunk, every woven basket, and every quiet face with a gentle warmth that feels softer than it did only a few hours before. The afternoon has become peaceful in a different way. Not because less work remains. Because everyone senses that the day's labor is gradually finding its natural resting place. The tax scribe looks across the village square. Only a handful of households still wait. The careful lines upon the papyrus now fill nearly every open space. The scroll has become pleasantly heavy in his hands. It carries more than numbers. It carries another day of ordinary lives remembered with care. He places the reed pen across the writing board and rubs his thumb gently against the fingers that have held it since morning. A faint stain of black ink rests beneath one fingernail. It will wash away tomorrow. Or perhaps the day after. Some traces of work leave more slowly than others. A young woman approaches carrying a shallow basket of freshly woven rope. She places it beside her husband, who has just finished repairing a wooden yoke. Together they study the new rope. Its fibers are tightly twisted. Smooth. Strong. The husband nods with quiet satisfaction. It should last many seasons. She smiles. If we care for it? He laughs softly. As we should. Their conversation drifts away on the evening breeze. The scribe watches them for only a moment before calling the next family forward. This household owns several goats and one elderly ox. The ox walks with slow dignity. Its broad shoulders tell the story of many years spent pulling plows through rich black soil after the Nile flood. The animal pauses halfway across the square. It lowers its head toward a small patch of green grass growing beside the well. The owner smiles. He has earned that mouthful. The scribe nods. There is no need to hurry him. No one minds waiting. The ox chews peacefully before continuing. The counting resumes only when the old animal is ready. Sometimes patience is shown not only to people, but to the creatures who have shared their labor through many seasons. The final mark for the household is written. The owner thanks the scribe with a respectful bow before leading the ox back toward the fields. Nearby, a grandmother sits outside her home preparing vegetables for the evening meal. Her knife is small and well worn. Its wooden handle has become smooth after many years of use. She slices onions slowly into a clay bowl. Then broad green leaves gathered beside the irrigation canal. A little garlic follows. The smells mingle with fresh herbs growing in small clay pots near her doorway. Her grandson watches with quiet interest. Every now and then she hands him another vegetable to wash in a shallow basin. He performs the task with complete seriousness. Water splashes gently over his small hands. The vegetables shine in the golden light. Neither notices how beautiful the ordinary moment has become. Not far away, the village carpenter closes the doors of his workshop. He sweeps wood shavings into a neat pile. Nothing useful is thrown away. The smallest pieces will help start tomorrow morning's fire. Larger scraps will become pegs, handles, or toys for children. Even sawdust finds purpose mixed into mud for repairs. The workshop grows tidy once more. Ready to welcome another day's work. The tax scribe smiles inwardly. He appreciates orderly places. His own writing board is cleaned in much the same careful way each evening. The reed pens are rinsed. The inkwells covered. The papyrus rolled securely. Good habits quietly protect good work. The breeze carries a fresh scent from the river. Several fishing boats have begun returning home. Their sails glow softly against the late afternoon sky. From this distance they appear almost motionless, though the gentle current steadily brings them closer to the landing place. Families waiting along the shore begin recognizing familiar boats. Children wave excitedly. Some fathers lift baskets already filled with fresh fish. Others carry only enough for the family's supper. Every catch is welcomed with gratitude. The river gives according to its own quiet rhythm. The scribe continues writing. A shepherd approaches with only 3 sheep remaining to be counted. The rest of his flock had been recorded earlier in the season while grazing near another village. These 3 were young lambs born afterward. Their wool is still short and remarkably soft. One follows the shepherd so closely that it nearly steps upon the edge of his robe. He laughs gently. This one thinks I am another sheep. The scribe glances at the little lamb. It seems content with the mistake. The shepherd scratches behind its ears. It follows me everywhere. Then you must be doing something right. The shepherd smiles. The final 3 marks are added to the scroll. Another small chapter of the day's work quietly comes to an end. A flock of swallows circles high above the village. Their graceful flight fills the warm sky. They dip and turn with effortless precision, catching insects carried upward by the cooling air. Children stop what they are doing to watch. One little girl stretches both arms toward the birds as though hoping to fly beside them. Her younger brother copies her. For a few happy moments they run through the square beneath the turning flock. Soon they grow tired. Laughing softly, they return to their mother. Even simple play carries the gentle rhythm of the day. The village potter steps outside carrying a newly fired water jar. He taps its side lightly with one finger. A clear sound answers. The firing has gone well. The clay has become strong. He sets the jar beside several others waiting to be carried into nearby homes. Each one will soon cool water during another long Egyptian summer. Another quiet gift shaped by careful hands. The tax scribe notices that the shadows now reach nearly across the entire square. The fierce warmth of midday has disappeared. People breathe a little more deeply. Work seems lighter. The promise of evening rests upon every face. He unrolls the last section of today's papyrus. Only a small space remains blank. The village headman walks over carrying a smooth stone cup filled with cool water. You are nearly finished. I am. You have worked since before sunrise. The road began even earlier. The headman nods thoughtfully. Then tonight you should sleep well. I believe I will. Both men smile. No further words are needed. They understand the quiet satisfaction that comes from honest work completed with care. The final household approaches. A widow and her 2 grown daughters. Together they own only a handful of animals. 4 goats. 1 patient donkey. A small flock of geese that wander freely between the canal and the village pond. The geese are gathered first. They complain softly about being interrupted from their evening search for food. Their voices echo briefly across the square before fading into quiet murmurs. The children nearby smile. Everyone in the village knows these geese. They have wandered through gardens, courtyards, and even the potter's workshop more times than anyone can remember. The scribe counts them carefully. Then the goats. Finally the old donkey. The donkey stands perfectly still. Its gray coat has faded almost silver with age. One ear bears a small notch from an injury many years before. The scribe remembers it. He noticed the same mark during his last visit. Some details remain in memory longer than numbers. The final symbol is written. The reed pen lifts from the papyrus. For a long moment the scribe simply studies the completed page. Every household. Every flock. Every patient ox. Every curious goat. Every hard-working donkey. Each one has found its place upon the scroll. He gently blows across the last line of fresh ink. The symbols darken as they dry beneath the golden evening light. Around him, the village continues preparing for night. Smoke rises from cooking fires. Fresh bread leaves the ovens. Fishing boats reach the shore. Palm leaves whisper softly above the rooftops. And beyond the fields, the Nile flows with the same quiet steadiness it has known for countless generations, carrying the fading light of the sun while another peaceful day of careful counting settles gently into the living memory of ancient Egypt. The golden light fades slowly from the fields beside the Nile. One by one, the last colors of the day soften into quiet shades of amber, then violet, then deep blue. The warmth stored inside the mud-brick walls begins to drift gently back into the evening air. The breeze grows cooler now, carrying with it the scent of river water, damp reeds, and distant cooking fires that are slowly burning low. The tax scribe stands alone for a final moment beneath the ancient sycamore. The scroll rests safely in his hands. It is no longer simply a collection of careful numbers. Within its quiet rows of ink live countless ordinary days. There is the old shepherd who knew every sheep by sight. The widow whose faithful donkey had grown old beside her family. The little girl who carried cool water with both hands. The curious boy who wondered how the papyrus could remember. The baker who rose before the stars had faded. The potter whose hands shaped clay into vessels that would cool water through another long summer. The fisherman who trusted the gentle current before dawn. The farmers who read the earth as carefully as the scribe read his records. None of them expected to become famous. None imagined that their quiet routines were helping to build one of history's greatest civilizations. Yet that is how most history has always been made. Not only by rulers. Not only by monuments. But by ordinary mornings. Patient afternoons. Peaceful evenings. By hands that worked carefully. By neighbors who shared bread. By families who counted not only their animals, but their blessings after another safe season beside the river. The scribe rolls the papyrus one last time. The linen cord is wrapped gently around it. The ink has dried completely. Nothing more needs to be written today. Tomorrow another village will wake before sunrise. Another baker will knead fresh dough. Another fisherman will untie his boat. Another shepherd will lead sheep toward green pasture. Another child will carry water beneath the growing light. The quiet rhythm will continue, just as it has for generations beyond counting. But tonight, the work may rest. The village settles into evening. Doors close softly. Clay lamps glow behind small windows. Families gather upon woven mats for one final meal before sleep. Warm bread is broken by familiar hands. Gentle conversations drip through open courtyards before gradually becoming whispers. Children, tired from the day's adventures, fall asleep before the stars have fully filled the sky. Their breathing becomes slow and peaceful. Parents cover them with light linen cloths. An old grandmother quietly thanks the river for another day. A shepherd listens one last time to the soft sounds of his flock settling into straw. A fisherman hangs his repaired net where the cool night breeze can dry it completely before morning. Far away, the water wheel turns only a little longer before coming to rest. The creaking wood grows silent. The oxen lower their heads. The fields wait patiently for another dawn. Above them all, the stars spread across the heavens with breathtaking calm. They are the same stars that watched the first villages rise beside the Nile. The same stars reflected in the slow-moving river. The same stars that quietly witnessed millions of forgotten evenings just like this one. The moon climbs higher. Its silver light brushes gently across the palm leaves. It settles upon the rooftops. It follows the winding canals. It glides across the sleeping river until every ripple carries a little piece of the sky. The Nile itself continues onward without haste. It asks for nothing. It hurries for no one. Its gentle current carries the coolness of the night through the valley, just as it carried life through countless seasons before. If you could stand upon its bank now, you would hear very little. Only the quiet whisper of water against reeds. The soft call of a distant night bird. The gentle rustle of palm leaves moving in the breeze. Perhaps the faint footsteps of someone walking home beneath the moon. Nothing more. Nothing less. The great temples stand silently beneath the stars. The villages sleep peacefully around them. The fields rest. The animals rest. The scribes rest. The river keeps its endless watch. And somewhere, safely tucked inside a carefully rolled scroll, the memory of one ordinary day remains. A day filled with patient counting. With honest work. With warm bread. With kind neighbors. With children learning. With faithful animals. With simple lives lived gently beneath the Egyptian sun. Those quiet moments were never carved into towering monuments. Yet they were no less important. They were the steady heartbeat of a civilization. The calm rhythm beneath every harvest. Every marketplace. Every family meal. Every sunrise beside the Nile. As the night grows deeper, even the breeze begins to slow. The stars seem brighter now. The village grows wonderfully still. Only the river continues its peaceful journey through the darkness, carrying with it the reflections of heaven and the quiet memories of countless ordinary souls whose names have long since faded, but whose gentle lives helped shape the world. And now, as the last lamp burns low, as the final ember settles into soft ash, and as the Nile whispers beneath the moonlight, the ancient land grows quiet once more. May its peaceful roads, its warm fields, its patient people, and its gentle river remain with you for a little while longer. May the steady footsteps along dusty paths fade into silence. May the soft scratching of reed upon papyrus become only a distant memory. May the breeze through the palms grow lighter. May the stars shine softly overhead. And may the quiet heart of ancient Egypt carry you, as gently as the timeless Nile itself, into a deep, peaceful, and restful sleep.